Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
The magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Let me close with this. I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. Well, I know. Well, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Moving on. That was just a couple of minutes ago. That was today in North Carolina. I don't know what happened last night. I'm going to guess needed Zyrtec. I don't know.
I really wish that Joe showed up last night.
Right? I mean, this was bad. This was like really super freaking.
You know, you're killing me too, because after I saw what I saw, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. I'm going to go in and Randy's going to tell me why it's not as bad as I think it is. And you did not do that.
No, because it was bad. And you know, there's no way to look at, but here, let me start this way, okay? Maybe I can make it feel better this way. If Joe Biden dropped trow on that stage last night and took a dump, I'd still vote for him. Okay, if Joe Biden's head was in a jar of formaldehyde standing next to that lying sack of crap last night, I would still vote for him. If Joe Biden was hooked up to, I don't know, life support systems and they wheeled him out on the stage, okay, and he was ventilated, intubated, I'd still vote for him over that liar. So there's my bias. Judge accordingly. Last night was bad. It was really bad. It was painful. It was horrible. It was, and you know, because we live in a TikTok society, I got to tell you, it started off so terribly scary because he was very halting. He lost his train of thought early and often. In the first, I'm going to say 30 minutes, but it was less than that, okay? It was really fast. It was like one of those, there's never an egg timer around when you need one. He was in peril. Something really horrible was going on with Joe. And I don't know. I mean, obviously he had some sort of allergy thing going on because he kept coughing, right? And you know he has allergies. And I don't know if they gave him too much Benadryl and it slowed him the F down, or not enough Zyrtec, or they gave him too many, shots of saline in the nose. I have no earthly idea. Okay, I really don't. But whatever it was, the Joe that showed up last night was not ready for prime time. I don't know how else to put it. It was sad. It was hard to watch, and it went on for 90 long minutes. This was not a senior moment, as a lot of people want to say, because I mean, you see him today. That clip I opened with, that is a few hours ago. It's a couple of hours ago. Okay, so something was going on last night, health-wise. I have no earthly idea, but I will tell you this: tens of millions of people were watching that last night. And because we live in a TikTok society, because we live in a society where, I do a 2-hour show every day, and you know what gets the most clicks? You know, it gets the shorts, okay? The real little, Randy in a Minutes. That's what makes people, follow me. That's what makes people, buy podcasts from me. I swear to God, under a minute, that's what they want. Deliver, put it in my box. I'm good. I'll give you something. I'll buy something from you. Anything longer than that, people check out. And so last night, I'm telling you, in the first 10 minutes, Biden was not great. In fact, he was painfully horrible. I don't know how else to say it. He needed to show up last night and just prove I mean, what was it? Eugene Robinson said all he needs to do is remain upright. That was what Eugene Robinson said. Well, sure enough, he remained upright, but barely, okay? And, Donald Trump was just like I said, I tweeted this out last night. I mean, how do you debate a fire hose of lies? How do you do it? How do you sit there? And, the speed of the lies, and there was no fact checking. CNN was like, I don't know, there was sort of a tag team on, against Biden. It was sort of like, Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, Donald Trump against Joe Biden, who obviously, didn't do great. I'm not excusing Joe Biden not doing great. Joe Biden, I can't say it enough so that you don't think that I am spinning the fact that Joe Biden tanked last night. He bit it. He took a nosedive. He crashed. He face planted. It was horrible. Okay, it was the worst performance. I mean, it was worse than my performance in the Comedy Club in San Francisco. Okay, it was so bad. It was so incredibly terrible. I'd still vote for him though, because Donald Trump is just a hose, a fire hose, a pressure cooker explosion of lies, not rice, lies. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. That said, I have to say, I never saw anything like what I saw last night. That's why Brett came in and he was trying, he said, Randy will make me feel better. But I did say to him, I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything. I've been watching debates for 20 some odd years. Okay. I've seen just about everything going back to Reagan. I've seen so many of these. I watch them. I've always watched them. I always will watch them. That I've never seen. What I saw last night, I have never seen. And what's crazy is this country just might reward energetic lying. See, and that's what scares me. But it was a moment in time. It really was. It was terrible. All Joe Biden had to do was stand up to Donald Trump and show that Donald Trump was a terrible person who didn't know policy, a terrible person with no ideas, a terrible person who is going to dismantle everything that we've come to rely on as being three branches of government, right? Today, the Supreme Court went crazy today. We'll get there. But, oh, my God, yesterday I was telling you that the Chevron deference case, right, the case about whether or not you defer to the experts in an agency if Congress wrote a law that was slightly ambiguous and you didn't know what the exact interpretation was, like how do you approach an oil spill? Like what needs to actually happen, what the testing law. So, the EPA actually would, they would defer to their expertise. No, that's all done now. They did. They kicked 40 years of precedent out the window. 18,000 court cases relied on the Chevron deference, meaning you defer to the experts. And now we don't. Now, as of today, we rely on the courts to decide everything. Everything that the Food and Drug Administration used to decide, like whether or not mifepristone is safe and efficacious. No, Kazmarek over there in Amarillo, Texas, set it up for the Supreme Court to say, well, we're not going to defer to the FDA. We're going to defer to the court. And if the court doesn't want you to have access to mifepristone, guess what? We'll find a way to tell you no. They just did that with the EPA. They just did that with the environmental. This was a fishery case, just so you know. This was a fishery case. You know what the case was? A guy who was a fisherman, okay? I promise we'll get back to the debate because it really was horrible. But a guy who is a fisherman, okay, brought this case because he had to have an expert, like somebody from the fisheries on his boat, as fishermen do, commercial fishermen do, to make sure that he wasn't overfishing, right? And the cost of having an expert on your boat is paid for by the commercial fishing company, right? And he was objecting to that. He didn't want to pay for it. This was brought to the Supreme Court by the Koch brothers, both, even the dead one, okay? Charles and David Koch. David's dead. The Koch industry sponsored this case all the way to the Supreme Court so that the courts will now decide, instead of the experts deciding what is safe and efficacious and what is, environmental protection and what isn't.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Well, first, the easy part. Donald Trump is a liar, a flawed character, mean, a jerk, very unlikable, and that was obvious tonight. Now, the hard and heartbreaking part. I have been a surrogate for some presidential candidates in my time. I know what the job is after a debate of a surrogate. I've never wanted to be a surrogate more than I do right now. Because when you're a surrogate, you have to focus on the positives. But I have said very clearly and very plainly on this network, and my job now is to be really honest. Joe Biden had one thing he had to do tonight, and he didn't do it. He had one thing he had to accomplish, and that was reassure America that he was up to the job at his age. And he failed at that tonight.
Yeah, he did. He failed at that tonight. And the sad thing is that tens of millions of people watched it last night. And then today he bounced right back, okay, and showed everybody that he still got it and that he's still capable. I mean, the Biden administration, the entire Biden, presidency has been fabulous. And, I keep saying that he's one of the best presidents I have seen in forever. And he is. He is. I mean, he made NATO bigger. He kept us out of wars. He ended 20 years of wars. Okay, I do love Biden. I really do. We came back from COVID because of Biden. Biden was able to manage to get every single American multiple tests to their house in the mail over and over again. As long as COVID was a thing, you would get free tests, right? You had access to vaccines. There was no vaccine mandate. I mean, that's just a sick, twisted lie that, they keep telling over and over and over again so that some people, a good chunk of people, let's just say what it is, believe it. They think that's true. It's not true. Okay? It isn't. And I mean, yes, he was overwhelmed last night by the enormity of the bullcrap that was coming at him. And they have nothing on stage with them. They have no documents, just a pad and a pen. That's it. That's all, like this right here that I have. That's all you get. Look at all this other stuff I have. And I've got computers, okay? They have nothing at all. And the amount of lying that went on and the meanness from the get-go. I have no idea what he said. I don't even think he knows what he said. I mean, just bizarro world. And he came out, the split screen. The whole thing was a disaster. They both looked like duty. Okay, I don't know what else to say. They both looked awful. Donald Trump came out with his whole face paint thing on, and when you put Joe Biden on a split screen next to the orange face, Joe Biden looked so pale. He looked like a cadaver. He did. He looked like a dead person walking.
I got to say, one thing that was missing for me was an unhinged Donald Trump, and I did not appreciate how seemingly composed he was for most of that. It disheartened me a bit.
Well, he was an energetic liar, don't you think?
Oh, the lies were strong. The lies are always strong with that one.
So what is it that you were missing?
I was just hoping he'd be more unhinged, more just rabid, and he just kind of wasn't.
Oh, he was pretty damn nasty. I don't think you watched the whole thing, did you?
I didn't get a chance. No, I didn't get a chance to watch, as you know.
I do know you work, so I forgive you.
I was working. I watched as much as I could from clips and collecting what I could. But
he was pretty mean.
But
he was.
Everything I watched, he wasn't.
He was
unhinged.
No, he was mean though. He was really mean. He was mocking Biden. He was, and in fact, Frank Luntz and the other pollsters that do these focus groups with the dials. They used to show them on TV. The dialing up, the dialing down. I like this. Oh, I don't like that. And, all that was going on. And Frank Luntz said that every time that Trump attacked Biden, who really did seem frail last night. I mean, he really did. He looked terribly frail, which seems to be a sin in politics. But every time Trump would attack Joe Biden, people in the focus group would just be repulsed by Trump. So it did happen. It did. Here, I'll show you a little clip here.
Continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country.
You had COVID.
All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it.
Couldn't leave it. COVID. It was Title 42 for a global pandemic, and then the Supreme Court said you can't use it anymore. Okay. The lying was incredible, but I don't think he knew what he said. He was stumbling, he was bumpering, he was halting, he was frail, he was all those things. Not today, but last night. And like I said, today in North Carolina, tens of people were watching that. Tens. Last night, tens of millions. That is the issue. That is the problem that we're going to have. Okay? It is. And I'll tell you exactly how it goes. This is what's going to happen. Although this is uncharted territory, I have to say. I always say there's nothing new under the sun. I've never seen a debate this bad, ever. Ever. So it'll be, I'm going to say, a week. You know how the polling is always lagging behind just a tad, just a touch? Okay. And so it'll take about a week. All the Democrats, now remember, the people that are going to put pressure on what goes on next are going to be people on ballots. It's going to be House members who have to run. Every House member is up for re-election every 2 years. So every House member, Democrat, is going to be terrified, especially if they're in a swing district, about that debate. Every governor who has to stand on a stage, especially in Pennsylvania, places like that, they're going to be terrified if they're up for re-election about being on a stage with Joe Biden now after last night. You're going to have senators in like Tester and other people that are, in contested Senate races. They're going to be, and all those people, everybody inside the DNC, every single elected official, especially, and every other person who felt like last night was, just insurmountable. Okay, which I don't, but insurmountable. They're all going to wait until the end of the week when the polling next week. July 4th weekend, whatever. It'll be after that. They'll get the polling. It'll be a reflection of what happened last night. And if the polling is worse than 4 points down, you got to remember, Obama didn't do well at his first debate. There's a lot of people who did not do well at debates, but I've never seen anything this bad. Okay, really, honestly, tell you the truth. And I don't think you have either. I think we all went, oh my God. Anybody that's going to tell the truth to themselves or to me is going to have to say, oh my God. Okay. Well, everybody's going to reassess at the end of, a week or two, and they're going to decide whether or not Biden is still viable. And the entire DNC is going to have to make a decision to either approach Biden and have a little sit down and talk to him about the way forward, if they believe there is one, or if they don't. Because we still have a convention. And, I did a lot of shows this year about 1968. I just had this feeling about 1968, watching the protests, watching the campus protests especially. Although those protests, I've never seen protesters attack each other the way that this particular group does. It's kind of new, too.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month.
What?
And even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
Okay, Roe v. Wade allows for abortion up to 24 weeks. That's Roe v. Wade. Okay, the Supreme Court said there is no federal protection any longer. You're going to send it back to the states. Now he's standing on stage saying Roe v. Wade allows for, murder? I guess that's what he's saying, that doctors and nurses in an OR where a woman has come to give birth, because, we don't give birth in parking lots yet. We don't give birth in rice paddies and then go right back to, picking the rice. We have hospitals still in this here country. And when women are delivering, they go there. Okay? And I'm guessing that there's an anesthesiologist standing by. I'm guessing there's an OBGYN, an obstetrician. I'm guessing there are nurses. I'm guessing there are LPNs and RNs and PAs. And, it's a hospital. They're all in on it, though. In Trump's, they're all in on infanticide, which is still illegal in every state. And not one single peep from Jake Tapper or Dana Bash. Not a peep. Not any attempt to say, are you out of your mind? Sir, Mr. Trump, why don't you just answer some simpler questions? Things that, why don't you tell us how a bill becomes a law? There, do that one. Not a peep, not an attempt at fact checking or at saying we don't murder babies in this country. What nightmarish, ghoulish thing are you selling to your maggots out there? Now, we had a call from Sherry in Texas this week who said that does happen, and it happens in New Jersey. That's what she said. Remember? Oh, yeah, I'm not crazy. She said, it does happen. It happens in New Jersey. I mean, this is why she thinks that. This is why. And not one single attempt, not even the lift of a finger, a microphone, or nothing. And Biden is over there with his mic turned off. This particular scenario with the turned off mics. Yeah, you know who the loser was? We were. Because you couldn't hear Biden reacting in real time because his mic was turned off. And, Donald Trump just got to lie for 2 straight minutes. They would ask him a question and he would lie for 2 straight minutes. I mean, it was just, I've never seen anything like this debate ever. And it was just, the whole thing was just ill-conceived and poorly executed. Plus, Joe Biden did poorly. He did badly. He didn't have a good night, as they say. And so what you ended up with were 2 hosts that refused to fact check anything. Okay. They said that their only job was to facilitate a debate. No, your job is to ask questions and demand answers to those questions in the lousy 2 minutes that you give somebody. Like, they kept on asking whether or not he would accept the results of the election. Okay. They kept asking Donald Trump over and over and over and over. Now, that was a very Trump-specific question because there is no question that Biden, if he lost, would recognize that he lost and he would concede and shake the man's hand and wish him well because he wants good things for the United States. Okay? That's how much of a patriot he is. He doesn't put his own hurt feelings ahead of our ability to self-govern. Okay, so it's a very specific question to Donald Trump. They asked it 3 freaking times. And each time, not only did he refuse to answer it, but he would move on to whatever topic he came to lie about. And nobody reeled him in. Nobody reined him in. Nobody, tried. Nothing.
Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again.
Okay, he never answered the question, will you accept the results of a free and fair election, okay? He just said, well, of course I denounce violence. I mean, if you heard me or read me on Twitter, this is a man who for 3 hours while our Capitol was under attack did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. So he lied right there, and he blames Nancy Pelosi for him doing nothing, for him being derelict in his duty as president of the United States and allowing his Capitol to be overrun by guys with Trump flags, by guys with Trump hats and Trump T-shirts and Trump, whatever, right? So now, I mean, it's, and he's like, I never would have run for president. I only ran for, you would be in jail if you don't win, and you will be in jail if you don't win. The only reason why you're running is to stay out of jail. And no, Joe Biden did not indict you. You are indicted by a grand jury of your peers. You understand that? And you were convicted by a jury in New York, a randomly selected jury that your lawyers agreed to seat. And they found you guilty of 34 felonies. This is so, I mean, it's just wow. And and he still didn't answer the question. That she asked him again. He went off on the economy. She asked him again, and he went off on something else. Never said that he would accept. Finally, at the end, he said, if it's free and fair. If it's free and fair. So you know what I now know? I know the reason why he's holding out on the vice president. You know, what is his criteria for VP? He's going to choose somebody that will not certify the election if he loses. That's what he's shopping for. That's why he's making them self-emulate and humiliate themselves at his feet on TV to see if they got what it takes to say, I'm not certifying.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week.
There was no fraud. You know, there are 60 different cases were brought in front of 60 different courts, and not one single court found any fraud that would have changed the outcome of that election. I mean, and nobody said a word. And of course, you know, he won't answer the question, will you accept the results of a free and fair election, which we've always had in this country, because he won't. The answer is no. And he's going to rely on whoever he picks for vice president, whether he picks, freaking Doug Burgum, or he picks J.D. Vance, or he picks Marco Rubio. They're all out there auditioning. Tim Scott, who was on the TV yesterday saying, thank God racism is over. I swear to God, he said it. Racism is over. It's behind us. He said it's in the rearview mirror. I mean, these guys that get on the TV and lie like this is why he's auditioning them so hard. He needs somebody that will absolutely 100% be guaranteed to not do what Mike Pence did, to not certify the results of an election that he loses. Tara Devlin.
Oh, yes.
Hi.
Randi. Hi. So great to talk to you.
You too.
Listening to your show, and I really appreciate everything you're saying, because I have that 2016 feeling at the moment, and you know, with this despair, I kind of feel like a sense of dread.
Yeah. Because
of what happened last night, and because the conversation should be about the litany of lies.
Yes.
The Trump performance, which was an embarrassment, but it's about Joe Biden. I mean, he did look very old.
He looked awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I know
Mm-hmm.
you and me and everybody else in this audience, okay, every single person that's on hold right now listening, they all were sitting there going, Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
DEFCON 1, we're in trouble, whatever. It was so bad, Tara. It was so
Right.
bad. But yes, Donald Trump was a fire hose, a bull crap. I mean, it was like opening up the sewer system and letting it just roll.
Yeah,
Oh.
everything out of his lie hole. And then the moderators sitting there, especially about, just doing nothing about abortion. When they say that, he says that Democrats want infanticide, basically. And the moderators sit there. The fact is that is so offensive in general to women, as if women in their 9th month of pregnancy go into a doctor's office and say, never mind, get it out of me.
I got tickets to a concert. I can't be here today.
And then all the doctors are like, okay, sure, here we go. I mean, that does not happen.
No.
And if there are late-term abortions, it's because there's something catastrophically wrong with the pregnancy.
Right.
And that the fact that they think women are so evil that they do that they'll just carry a pregnancy to 9 months and just want to say, kill it, whatever.
So know what, Tara? You know what that debate was last night? Here's a good one. I think somebody called to say this. This isn't my own, but I saw it on my screen. That it was evil versus feeble, and that they would take feeble every day of the week. And that's what I said when I opened the show, too. I mean, if Biden's head was in a jar of formaldehyde, I'd still freaking vote for him.
I would, too.
Right.
I would, too. Because he is a good president, and I do believe
he's an excellent president.
History, will be very kind to him. History will remember him fondly. And what he should have done right out of the gate with his voice, as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh, no.
Right.
He should have addressed it.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't tell. What he should have said is, I'm sorry, excuse me, I have a cold, I've been losing my voice, sounding the alarm about this MAGA Republican threat to our country.
I agree.
And that would have diffused it. It sort of reminded, like the George Washington in Newburgh, where he put on his spectacles for the first time and said, I've lost I've not only gone gray, but I've lost my sight in service of my country. And he could have done something like that, turn it into a positive. But he looked feeble, and the fact that he didn't address it was a problem, because you have to address the obvious to basically diffuse it. It's like in stand-up comedy, as you know. You walk on stage, you have a black eye, you got to address it. If you have an arm in a cast, you have to address it, It's,
right.
Otherwise, the audience is going to be like, what's going on
What's
here?
going on? Why is she avoiding this? It's right in my face.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's
I don't know who said it last night, but, I was watching every commentator because, listen, I was looking, talk me off the ledge.
Mm-hmm,
Nobody could, nobody would. But the closest I got to it was, I think it was Lawrence O'Donnell, who was saying, on my desk, I have all these bobbleheads. This guy right here, this is FDR, and he's in a wheelchair, see?
Right.
And he was saying if FDR were running now, okay, we wouldn't elect him because he's in a wheelchair. True. And the last term of FDR was the last year FDR was alive. He died, right?
Yeah.
So, and he was the greatest president in modern history.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Definitely. And we're still living in his shadow, thankfully. I mean, people are still living out of poverty because of FDR.
Yeah.
And this is really concerning. Now I'm thinking, of course I'll vote for him, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. He did a speech today, and
it was great.
Looked fine. Right. What happened? Where was that guy? That's what we were all hoping for. State of the Union, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To diffuse this, because we have to fight against, these deep fakes. That it's not just coming from the fringe. It's coming from the New York Post. They're putting literal lies on their covers, and this is
it's Murdoch. That's Murdoch. I mean, So
and now Joe Biden basically confirmed it. He looked, and everything he does with how he moves very slowly, and it just wasn't a good look. That's all.
It wasn't. It was painful.
It's horrible. So I don't know.
But I don't know. Like I was just waiting for like a Dana Bash or something to just pipe up and say, Excuse me, but what the F is wrong with you, Mr. Trump?
Exactly.
You know, do you really think we're all murderers? Or, here's an easy one. Where's Melania? Do you know?
Right. Exactly.
Something.
Ask him a question. I think.
I mean, when they got down to talking about golf and handicaps, I thought, okay, these moderators have lost control, and nobody has said that.
I know.
Right?
How embarrassing, too.
Horrible.
Even with Joe, I couldn't believe that Joe Biden joined in with that. And then Trump has the nerve to say, don't act like a child or whatever. Don't act like children. I mean, he is the man-child of the century.
Yeah.
And it's so unbelievable that now, of course, the media I think, is part of the problem why we're in this boat, because everyone's in their silos of information. And they don't, they're just talking about, again, the stats, not the state, not what is really at stake. Joe Biden is, like you said, he is standing in the breach, basically, against fascism.
Totally.
And I'll vote for him.
I will too, because I'm not just voting for him. I'm voting for his policies. I'm voting for his administration, the way that he would put a government together.
Right.
I am not just voting for Joe Biden, although I would if that was, if I got to vote. Right. No doubt. Well, Tara, it's just a tiny slice of heaven to actually talk to you. So thank you for calling me.
Thank you. All right. I'll talk to you again.
Be
thank
well.
You so much.
Thank you.
Talk to you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Randy,
I've never talked to her.
No, I've never talked to her either. I recognized her voice immediately. I love her Tara Busters.
Yeah.
But she really hit on it when she said all he had to do was diffuse the old stuff. And that was really his only job. Diffuse, be alert, be awake, be sharp, and let Trump's lies do the rest, and that is the one thing.
No, what she's saying, she wasn't saying any of that. She didn't even.
I'm saying
she was saying that when he got up on stage and you heard him speak at the very, very front, I mean, like the first words out of his mouth, you understood that he sounded croaky. Okay, he sounded bad. He sounded congested. His voice was very small, and it was croaky. And he should have said, "I'm so sorry about my voice, but I have terrible allergies today," or "I'm so sorry about my voice, I have a really bad cold." And he didn't address it. He just let it be the elephant in the room, because everyone was, from the very get-go, that's why I said within the first 10 minutes, he lost this debate. There was no doubt he lost. And why did he lose? He lost because he looked frail and because he sounded ill. And if he just would have addressed it, that's her point, then he could have cleared that particular question that was rolling around everybody's mind. Is he going to die? Is he okay? What's wrong? He could have just put it over here and after he addressed it. But he didn't, and everybody's mind started wandering. So, and I remember I looked at Howard, I went, oh no, I think he might die. Right there I think he might die, because he didn't address it. He just let it be there in your brain.
Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Did you see Trump last night? My guess he said, I mean it sincerely, a new record for the most lies told in a single debate.
He did.
He lied about the great economy he created. He lied about the pandemic he botched, killing millions of people. He closed businesses. He closed schools, losing their homes, people all over this country. America was flat on its back. So I told Trump that he was just one of two presidents in American history who left office with fewer jobs than he started. Herbert Hoover was the other one. That's why I call him Donald Herbert Hoover Trump.
I don't know. The Zyrtec must have kicked in. I don't know. I really, honestly don't know. But it was just a liathon. It was just the most amazing thing. In fact, today they didn't fact check anything, including letting Trump get away with saying that Roe v. Wade, which allows for abortion up to 24 weeks, actually allows for abortion as you're giving birth. Infanticide. Roe v. Wade, he said that. And they didn't fact check anything until after the debate was over. The fact check was so unbelievably long, okay?
He said some Democratic states allow people to execute babies after birth, an egregious lie that is illegal in every state. He said everybody, even Democrats, wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. Roe was supported by 2/3 of Americans, even more Democrats. He said every legal scholar wanted Roe overturned, abortion returned to the states. Legal scholars have told me directly this is not true. He said the U.S. currently has the biggest budget deficit ever. No, that happened under Trump in 2020. He said the U.S. currently has a record trade deficit with China. That also happened under Trump in 2018. He said Biden personally gets a lot of money from China. Zero evidence of this. He said there were no terror attacks during his presidency. In fact, there were multiple attacks. He said Iran didn't fund Hamas, Hezbollah, other terror groups under his presidency. Iran, in fact, did. He said Biden wants to quadruple people's taxes. That is pure fiction. He said the U.S. has provided way more aid to Ukraine than Europe had. It's actually the opposite. He said the U.S. has provided about $200 billion in Ukraine aid. It's closer to $110 billion. He said 18 or 19 million people have crossed the border under Biden. That is millions too high. He said many of these migrants are from prisons or mental institutions. His own campaign cannot corroborate this. He said Biden has only created jobs for illegal immigrants. Total nonsense. He said Nancy Pelosi turned down his offer of 10,000 National Guard troops on January 6th. There's no evidence she even got such an offer. It was the president, not Pelosi, who had the power to deploy the D.C. Guard. He said Pelosi now acknowledges she turned down the troops. No, her office tells me this claim is still a lie. He said he deployed the National Guard to Minneapolis in 2020. Actually, that was the Democratic governor. He spoke of, quote, ridiculous fraud in the 2020 election. Zero evidence of any widespread fraud. He said NATO was going out of business before he took office. Completely, clearly absurd. He said the U.S. was paying 100% of NATO before he came along. The U.S. made up about 71% of NATO defense spending, not 100. He said he, not Biden, is the one who lowered insulin prices in Medicare. He did it for some seniors, but Biden did it for far more. He said Biden indicted him. Again, no evidence Biden has had a personal role in any of these 4 prosecutions. He said Europe takes no U.S. cars, just not true. He spoke of food prices quadrupling under Biden. That's a wild exaggeration, though they are up. He said Biden made up the idea he called dead service members suckers and losers. No, the Atlantic magazine reported that, and then former Trump chief of staff John Kelly corroborated it. He said Biden called black people, quote, super predators for 10 years. Biden never once deployed that phrase, let alone for 10 years, though he did at least once speak of, quote, predators without specifying it was about black people. He said his Trump tax cut was the largest in U.S. history. Not true, though, in fairness, Biden also said this. Trump said China and others stopped buying from Iran under him. China never stopped. He revived his pet lie, I don't know how many times I've done it, that he signed the Veterans Choice Program into law. Barack Obama did that in 2014. Yeah. Trump signed an expanded version in 2018. And finally, Trump said Biden got rid of that Veterans Program. Biden has not done that.
Now, how is a person supposed to stand on a stage 8 feet away with a microphone turned off as you're telling all these lies? How are they supposed to debate you? That's another problem. It really is. Although I think Tara made the best point. Okay, when Biden first came out and his voice was all croaky, he should have said something about it. He should have said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have really bad allergies today," or "Oh, I'm sorry, I sound awful because I have a bad cold." And he didn't, and it left it lingering out there. And he did say after the debate, he went to a watch party. My ex-husband was at that watch party. Hey, Jimmy. But yeah, Jimmy was at the watch party. And Biden went to that watch party afterwards. And he told them that, there was nothing Trump said that was true. He was like, listen, how do you debate somebody? I can't think of one true thing that he said. Right?
Look, folks, what's going to happen over the next couple of days is they're going to be out there fact-checking all the things he said. I can't think of one thing he said that was true.
Right.
No, I'm not being facetious. But look, we're going to beat this guy. We need to beat this guy. And I need you in order to beat him. You're the people I'm running for.
Now, that was a watch party. They saw exactly what we all saw, and they understood what was going on. Now, the optics were terrible. That's number one. Like I said, on the split screen, Biden's facial, expressions were, horrible. The whole thing, somebody needed to explain to him, that he is and he was on the wrong side of the screen, by the way, because he always looked like he was looking away, but he was looking at Trump. I mean, the whole thing, and with Trump's tan face and his cadaver color, it's like me, it's pasty white. You could see right through him. The whole thing was, and the amount of lying with zero intervention from the moderators and a microphone turned off as the lies. And, as somebody who has debunked Donald Trump 1 billion times already, he told 30,000 lies. 30,000 lies in the first term, okay? It's very hard to do because he lies so profusely and with such energy and such projectile, effort that it's like incoming, right? And in 30 seconds, the man could set the record for telling 26 lies in 30 seconds, like 1 lie per second. And if your mic is turned off, and you can't control it in real time, you can't beat back all those lies. You just can't. That was Daniel Dale post debate fact checking, and it was 3 minutes, and that was just a partial. You know how long the fact check was today in the newspaper? Not the newspaper, in Daniel Dale's fact check? 37 pages. 37 pages. And I remember when Trump first became president, I would come into work and I'd go, the fact check today, 12 pages. Fact check today, 22 pages. Fact check today, 27 pages. Last night, fact check, 37 pages of lies without any intervention. I'm sorry. The more I actually revisit, and the more I saw Biden, post-debate, and the more I saw Biden today, the more I understand exactly, the scenario and the situation that he was in. It's untenable. It was undoable. But I do agree he should have addressed it at, some time during the thing. He should have said. And he went to a Waffle House, too, in Atlanta.
Mr. President, how did you perform tonight?
I think we did well.
Do you have any concerns that you should out that you're not fit for the job, your voice, your performance tonight? Do you have any concerns about your performance?
No, it's hard to debate a liar. New York Times pointed out he lied 26 times. Big lies.
It's hard to debate a liar. I agree, especially when your mic is turned off. Was it horrible? Yeah, it was horrible. It was really terrible. But it's hard. I would not ever agree to those terms again. I would never, ever agree to no fact-checking. And I would never agree that if you're not going to fact-check, my mic has to be on.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
The candidate's performance and demeanor tonight notwithstanding, there is the crucial question of the truth of what was actually said on stage. And our fact checker, Daniel Dale, joins us now. So, Daniel, what stands out to you?
What stood out was the staggering number of false claims from former President Trump. On first count, Aaron, I counted at least 30 false claims. Now, President Biden also made false claims, at least 9 false or misleading statements on first count. I'll give you some of them. He said he's the only president in a while who didn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Troops have, of course, died on his watch. He said he's put in a $15 per shot cap on insulin and Medicare.
35.
It's a $35 a month cap. He said it's a $200 cap on overall drug spending in Medicare. It's $2,000 a year. He said the border now has fewer crossings than when Trump was in office. That's generally not true. He said, or at least strongly suggested, unemployment was at 15% when he took office. It was actually 6.4. He said Trump wants to get rid of Social Security. Trump doesn't. He said billionaires pay 8.2% in taxes. It's much higher. He said Trump told Americans to inject bleach amid COVID. We know Trump made foolish comments about scientists studying disinfectant injection, but didn't frame it as advice to people. And Biden said the Border Patrol endorsed him. No, its union supported the border bill he'd supported, never endorsed him himself. In fairness, the president did appear to clarify that one.
Yes, he clarified that one. And the numbers thing, he kept making numbers mistakes. And, the obvious reason why he got numbers wrong is because the numbers are huge, okay? They're really big, and there's so many of them. It's like $35 for insulin, not $15 for insulin. Whoops, he made a mistake there. It's not $200 cap on, your Medicare. It's $2,000. He kept on making, flubs between millions and billions. He did that often. He, and standing there as a human, okay, in the face of all the lies that Donald Trump told, like crazy lies, like lunatic lies, like killing lies, like murderous lies, not like getting 200 wrong to 2,000. You know what I mean? Not saying there's billionaires in this country. He said how many billionaires there were in this country, but he called them trillionaires and then corrected himself. Okay, standing there with all these numbers and no paper. Do you know what I mean? Like no list, nothing available at all. And just talk while the lies are just coming. I don't know that I could do it. And I'm pretty good, but I just don't know. I just don't know. That was, so those were his lies. He said insulin was $15, it's $35. He said the cap on Medicare prescriptions is now $200, it's $2,000. Okay, I think everybody knew what he meant, but nobody knows what Donald Trump means when he says he will only accept the results of what he considers a free and fair election, and that the last election was not that. The last election wasn't free and fair. So there you have the fact check. Okay, Patrick in California.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Oy.
I know.
Whenever I think of Trump and MAGA Republicans, this often pops into my head. Springtime for Hitler and Germany. Don't be stupid, be a smarty. Come and join the Nazi party. Oh, my God. And, why in that...
So you're a Mel Brooks fan on top of it. Okay.
Well, you got to be. And why the effing... I have a number of rhetorical questions, but why in the effing F did we fight Hitler in World War II only to 80 years later see MAGA Republicans and Trump turn us into everything we fought against in the first effing place?
Well, because he admires that and thinks it should have succeeded. That's why.
Well, and Ivana, in her court testimony in the divorce proceedings and in her autobiography, if I'm not mistaken, said he had a book of Hitler's speeches on the nightstand in their master bedroom.
Yeah, but
another rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say he doesn't read, so I really wouldn't worry.
Yeah. Another rhetorical question is why on earth are Dana Bash and Jake Tapper gainfully employed, much less pulling down 7-figure, 8-figure salaries? I think that would be.
I mean, I don't know how they sat there like that and said nothing in the face of knowing that tens of millions of voters for the first time in this election cycle would be tuning in to their licensed, disseminated debate that would be on every single channel. And they decided that the way forward was not to fact check. David Chalian, okay, I don't know if you know who he is, but David Chalian, he's on CNN too. He is the political director. And he is the person at CNN that made that decision not to fact check in real time. And so they did it.
I love our president, and
I love him too. I really do.
He's I'm 61, and he's the first president that I've actively been rooting for since like his first 100 days, and he's also the first president in my lifetime that I didn't get pissed off at in the first 100 days. I like Obama personally. I voted for him twice, but I felt like I got Diet Mitt Romney with Obama for 2 terms, and I was afraid of the same thing with Biden, but I felt like I got Diet Bernie Sanders, which is for me a definite upgrade. If it wasn't for Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, we would be hailing Joe Biden as the FDR of the 21st century. And if it wasn't for Merrick Garland slow walking everything, Trump would be already in prison. Right. And it's just, there's so many things that I'm shocked and horrified at the billionaire class and the Supreme Court decision with like the Chevron deference and other decisions, and so many people in the Republican Party all actively colluding to turn us into the 21st century equivalent of Nazi Germany.
Yeah. There's no question. And you know that they dropped these really important cases today where we will all be talking about the debate, even if it went well, is really telling, right? They don't want anybody to get their brains wrapped around these horrible decisions that they made, and they dropped today the Chevron deference case, saying that expertise is no longer valued and that the agencies that are experts in their field, they no longer get to make the call where there's an ambiguous, statute. It goes to the courts, and the courts will tell you whether or not, this is medically approved. The courts will now be the scientists. The courts will now be the pharmacists. The courts will now be the Environmental Protection Agency. The courts will now be the clean air people. They will be the clean water people. Give me a freaking break. And the other thing they dropped today that most people don't even realize is they dropped the obstruction charges against the January 6th miscreants.
I know.
I mean, this is craziness. This is madness. They dropped all these freaking decisions, and we don't even have time to process what just happened. But I will tell you that doing away with the regulatory expertise inside of these agencies is the death knell. It's the death knell to,
if Biden wins re-election, or if they pick someone else before the convention, what do we have to do to get some semblance of the Chevron deference back? Is it a constitutional amendment, or can they just pass a law?
Yes, law. Congress has to pass a law saying that that all expertise is in these agencies, and that Congress, if they should be ambiguous in any of the legislation dealing with agency interpretation, we mean to err on the side of letting the agencies decide. If they pass something like that, it's done, and the courts come out of it. But right now, the courts have just so empowered themselves to be the arbiter of all things sciencey, all things medical, all things pharmacological. They're now the experts, and the experts can go hang themselves. They can just go fish, go have a summer vacation, never come back. That's what they decided today.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Well, I think I should start by saying, without any apologies, that I love Joe Biden and Jill, and I will gladly debate anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere over the issue of whether Joe Biden has been the most effective president in passing bipartisan legislation, in expanding NATO, in responding to the rising threat coming from China by flexing America's strength around China, by having the strongest economy in the world, bar none, the strongest economy actually relative to the rest of the world in 50, 60, 70 years, the strongest dollar in half a century, the strongest military relative to the rest of the world, I would argue, and many others would argue, since 1945. I think his presidency has been an unqualified success. If, however, you believe, as do I, and as do so many people who watch this program and who fear just how dark of a place a second Donald Trump term will take America, then I think it's critical that we ask the same questions about this man I love, respect, and whose public service in saving this country from Donald Trump over the last 3.5 years I honor and always will. I think we have to ask the same questions of him that we have asked of Donald Trump since 2016, and that is, if he were CEO and he turned in a performance like that, would any corporation in America, any Fortune 500 corporation in America, keep him on as CEO.
Okay. I get where Joe is coming from, Joe Scarborough there, because I feel the same way. I think Biden is one of the most effective presidents I've had him, and I've lived in, America my whole life, and I think he's one of the most effective presidents that I have ever experienced. The expansion of NATO, the actual, tamping down of crime in this country. Murder was at an all-time high under Donald Trump. The murder rates in this country increased exponentially when Donald Trump was president. And now the murder rates in this country have come down 26%. That is a humongous decrease in murder. It's also property crime down, all the metrics on crime, okay? The economy is the blockbuster economy of the envy of the world. There is no leader of any country, I don't care if it's France, the UK, Germany, you name it, that wouldn't want to trade places with us and our economy. Our economy is so strong that is literally pulling up the rest of the world's G7 economies and keeping them from going into a deep, dark depression, okay, and a deep, dark recession. That's how good our economy is. It's so strong that it's pulling up other G7 country economies, okay? I mean, everything that Biden has touched has turned good, has turned the corner, has turned for the better. The chart, the graph, the curve on anything that Biden has done has been in our favor. In our favor, wages, job creation, union job creation, everything. Anything that the Republicans are still in charge of, like the Supreme Court, has been not in our favor. These decisions that came down today. No, you can attack the Capitol and we won't charge you with the obstruction of an official proceeding, because they said that the law that they were charged under, that does have that 20-year sentence associated with it for obstructing a official proceeding, only applied to documents, because it was a decision that came after Enron, the Ken Lay debacle, the fraud that happened at Enron, where they were bilking grandma for her energy costs by spiking the price when she was using her electricity. And they said that they were falsifying records and documents and blah, blah, trying to cover up the crime. And so that's where this particular obstruction law came from. And they didn't mean to apply it to human beings attacking the U.S. Capitol. And I'll tell you why they didn't mean to apply it to human beings attacking the U.S. Capitol. Because we've never had human beings attacking their own Capitol, not in the history of this country. So, we've just never had to deal with it. Anyway, so they're throwing out about 100 cases that were just obstruction. 14 cases of obstruction that were already, adjudicated, and the sentencing had already been done. Those people had done other things like assaulting police officers. In fact, the person who brought this case for the Supreme Court to decide is a police officer. He's an ex-police officer who assaulted police officers at the Capitol on January 6th. And he said, I shouldn't be charged with obstruction, just with assault. So that's the happy ending he gets. Okay, well, we'll charge you with assault, but not obstruction. Seriously, I mean, the cases that this Supreme Court took. Now, the only reason why they took this case isn't because this guy was sentenced, with obstruction and assault of a police officer. No, they took this case so that they could carve out some forgiveness, let's say, for Donald Trump's crimes. Because, Jack Smith's January 6th case includes 2 charges of obstruction of Congress. Now, he did it in a different way. Donald Trump did. He did it by dereliction of duty. Remember, Donald Trump didn't actually go and defecate on the floor, even though he probably was jealous, that he was diapered and they weren't. Do you know what I'm saying? So Donald Trump is charged with obstruction of Congress, but in a different way than these violent creatures are charged. But I think that the Supreme Court's looking at throw him a bone, Donald Trump. And, so he's charged with inciting riots. He's charged with, different kinds of obstruction and dereliction of duty and blah, blah, blah. Not doing anything to stop the madness, to stop the violence. So maybe one of the charges or 2 of the charges that have to do with obstruction will disappear. But this is the Supreme Court with a live assist for the most violent president we've had versus the most accomplished president we've had. And therein lies your dilemma. are you going to give points to an energetic liar, to an egregious bully over one bad performance? And that's what we saw so far from the Biden administration. One really bad performance. Now, that's where Joe Scarborough and I are parting ways. Now, I do know that, we could have another nominee. It's not something that's impossible to do because we have a convention coming up, and that is where we officially nominate our nominee for our party. And that hasn't happened yet. So there is a chance that we could dial it back to 1968 and have a contested convention. But Biden would have to say he's not running like LBJ did. He would have to say, I will not accept your nomination.
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. It is 48 after, and that means this is the last segment before I get to drink a copious amount of beer and float around in my pool and perhaps smoke a couple of pre-rolls. I don't know. I don't know how to cope and deal. Jim in Virginia.
Oh, my God. Happy Friday, you bastard.
Thank you.
I got to tell you, Randi, I've been listening all day, and I freaked out last night within the first 5 minutes. I was yelling stuff out the window about, please don't pay attention. This is democracy versus fascism, and like yelling and screaming, and I couldn't take it.
Yeah, it was
but
bad.
I got to agree with you that, first of all, CNN was totally remiss in doing anything.
Terrible.
It was awful. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost like that Trump's people kowtowed them into bowing down and being on his side. Like everything was awful. I know that you're right that Biden should have said that something was wrong and
that was
put
Tara's
it out
point.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. She was totally right.
Yes,
totally.
She is.
But at the same time, I mean, I kept watching it, and even when they cut to Biden supposedly looking at Trump, and reacting to him, it was the same stuff that they did when he was looking at paratroopers.
Yes,
it made it look like he was looking out into nowhere and had just this blank nothing on his face.
Yeah.
But I gotta really honestly, I totally agree with you that I am going to vote for Biden, even if they roll him out in a casket or in an urn full of ashes. I don't care.
I don't either.
But at the same time, Randi, I'm going to be realistic, and I was scared, and I'm renewing my passport. I'm not going to live in another 4 years of Trump, and it could be even longer than that.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that. I think Jon Stewart's joke last night was, I have to go now. I have to talk to my travel agent about renewing my passport for his real estate agent.
Good for Jon Stewart for having the ways and means to do something like that at the last minute, but a lot of us don't,
I'm just saying I'm agreeing with you. You just
I
know.
I totally know.
You just said you want to leave, and then I said, Jon Stewart said he did too.
No, I know.
Yeah. I know. I get it. It's just, but listen, here's the thing.
It's scary.
It was
really
scary.
is.
It's horrible. It was bad.
I'm hoping that the general public's lack of long-term memory will just forget about this in a couple weeks. And
I think so.
And Biden will be back for the second debate, stronger than ever and looking 20 years younger.
Oh, so here's a little question for you. Are you ready to answer something? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll be a second debate?
Actually, I do, because I think, because I thought that the whole time, I was waiting until the last minute to see if Trump was even going to show up last night.
Right.
Now he's all emboldened, thinking, hell yeah, I'll do 2 or 3 more debates.
You do?
I really do.
I have a feeling that the people around him, because he's an idiot. I mean, I'll give you that.
No, I know.
But that the people around him will say, sir, you already did this debate and it went really well. Don't try to recapture lightning in the bottle. You don't even have to show up for the next one.
Well, they've already agreed to 2 of them, haven't
I know. Yeah.
But I think he'll at least show up for the second one thinking, because you're right, he is stupid and he doesn't know when to stop. So this might be the turning point if he shows up for the second one. And
no, that would be great because that one doesn't happen until September 10th. And the election really starts after Labor Day. So, I mean, that would be great. But I don't see where Trump thinks he needs to show up. Do you know what I mean? And he'll only do what he thinks serves him. But after I don't think he. I don't know. I don't think he would. Personally, I just don't. Timmy in Vermont.
Yes. Hi, Randy.
Hi.
Hi. I think there would have been a much different dynamic last night, resulting in a much more favorable outcome for President Biden had there been a live audience.
Well, Donald Trump loves that. I mean, the reason why there wasn't one is because he feeds off of them, and they didn't want him to be more jacked up than he already, would be.
Sure.
And that's another reason why he was so, let's say, sedate. That's why he wasn't, an unhinged butthole, is because there was no audience feeding his ego. There was no audience, cheering for the cruelty. He was mean enough without it. I think if you had a live audience, then Trump would have been exactly what Brett was saying he didn't see from him last night, which was, a raging lunatic butthole.
Yes, I totally agree with you. But nonetheless, you listen to Biden during
Timmy,
the Waffle House
I'm going to tell.
today.
I know, I get it, but listen, whatever happened last night, it happened, and everybody saw it. Everybody saw it. There's no one that's going to vote that didn't see it. So the only way to dig out of it is to, keep on going out there and exposing yourself to more and more people. Have another debate. I don't know that Donald Trump's going to show up for another debate. I just don't know. But if he does, I would say that everything rests on that second debate in a way that it sort of did last night, but it inured to Donald Trump's favor, even though Donald Trump told like 100 lies. 100. Rick in L.A. Oh, my fault. Rick in L.A. I didn't push the button.
Yeah. Hi, Randy. How are you?
Good.
I'm not going to talk about the debate. I'm going to bring a bit of levity to the subject matter here.
All right, then.
I learned for the first time yesterday in a Supreme Court opinion that the EPA used to have authority to regulate nitrous oxide. They struck down the Good Neighbor Initiative, which basically gives downwind states the ability to regulate, or EPA to regulate what the upwind states release.
Uh-huh.
And
that's right.
4 times in the opinion, authored by Neil Gorsuch, he referred to nitrous oxide. It's actually nitrogen oxide.
He
which
did?
Is a pollutant.
I was going to say,
nitrous oxide
that's what you get at the dentist.
What's that? But yeah, you get that at the dentist. Exactly. Which is amazing. I mean, it just shows.
But they declared themselves today the ultimate arbiters of what experts, that they would be the ultimate experts in any field, every field, all the time.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
unbelievable.
Forget about the experts. They know best.
Just so people understand the weight of what they did. You'd think that overturning Roe v. Wade had a lot of weight to it, and now people are living through it and they're understanding it, they're feeling it. Wait until the weight of doing away with the EPA's expertise or the expertise of land management. I mean, look, Donald Trump built his big wall, which he stole military money for to funnel into this wall, which is illegal because Congress has the power. The first president can't spend money, but he did, and he lied, and he admitted it the other day. And he violated all of the warnings that the Environmental Protection Agency gave him about, places you don't want to put a wall. Okay. And of course, right. And in Douglas, Arizona.
Endangered species. so forth. Yeah.
Well, no, not the endangered species, but the monsoon effect, and that his wall was on hinges and it would come up. It all happened. I mean, he took all this military money and he built this wall in right near Douglas, Arizona, and the freaking thing was just knocked off its hinges. It's laying in pieces. It's not protecting anybody from anything anymore, and we paid for it. Although Mexico was supposed to, we paid for it, and it's because he refused to listen to the environmental warnings that were given to him about building there. He just thought everybody has been so derelict in their duty because they didn't build there. I'm going to build there. And he's the builder. He's the builder.
Right. Well, I just look at his crummy buildings. I mean, what happens to them? I mean, the drywall, the Chinese drywall he uses, and that kind of thing. It's like no quality at all.
Well, he doesn't pay for anything, so what do you expect?
Well, yeah. No,
but he's great with our money, though. He's really good with our money. So, he took the military's money. He spent it on this section of wall that did not survive the monsoon season, and it's laying there in pieces. But, the Supreme Court is going to be the expert now, okay? So I guess Clarence Thomas will tell Donald Trump, should he be president again, you really shouldn't build there because, the environmental warnings are present. I will brief you on that because I'm now the environmental expert.
Right. They want us to go back to the 20s. That is the 1920s,
Exactly. Well, maybe the 1820s. I mean, who knows? Who really knows? Anyway, don't judge one performance for, your vote. Please don't. I'm just worried a lot of people will. Just don't be one of them. Don't be one of them.